you and I get Twitter questions all the time. Aren't you secretly fans of the 49ers? Don't you really want them to win? And Iggy and I maintain absolutely not. I've seen a lot of coaches and players come and go. I don't get attached to them. And I want to give you an example of why I'm not a fan. They kicked the crap out of the Rams last night.
Yep.
And the narrative shifted in a week, in 8 days. Last week, after he stepped out of the back of the end zone, threw a pick at the end. I'm talking about Jimmy. It was whoa, whoa, oh my God! Maybe they should play Brock Purdy. They're screwed. Kyle's an idiot, and I said, "Whoa, let's turn down the noise." Now I read a headline in an article. It's Super Bowl or bust for the 49ers. They've played 4 games, and it's Super Bowl or bust. Well, I want to turn down that noise too. It's true they beat the Rams handily. That does not equate to me, oh, this is a Super Bowl team. I'm not a fan. If I were a fan, I'd say, wow, we beat the defending Super Bowl champs. We're terrific. I'm not part of that we. I'm saying turn down the noise. A week ago, they sucked. Now they're great. You know how the players and the coaches always say, we don't get too high, we don't get too low? This is exactly what they mean. They're not crushed after the Denver loss. They're not celebrating Super Bowl after the win over the Rams. Where are they now? So I'm saying, let's get quiet. Let's not celebrate. Not that I would celebrate. I'm suggesting fans, you can celebrate the win, but don't celebrate the season yet. They only played 4 games. And what do I see? I see a division. Everybody's 2-2. If you allow me this, 2-2 is a 500 record, which to me is the definition of mediocre. 500 record is mediocre. It's not good and it's not bad. It's mediocre. I.e., at this point on October, 4th, the whole division is mediocre. So they just, a mediocre team, which I consider the 49ers to be, just beat a mediocre team. That's very good for them, but it doesn't mean Super Bowl or bust. So that's my initial take, that we should tamp down the noise and talk about what really went on in the game. And I'd like to, Iggy, because I think the way they beat the Rams is indicative of what they do well and what they don't do well. First of all, do you agree with me of wanting to make the conversation a little quieter, or do you feel I'm being too stodgy?
I disagree with you on this in the most respectful way possible. Okay. So I'm going to speak on behalf of the fans because I think I'm not a fan, but I'm definitely contributing to the noise. I put Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat after week 3, and I stand by it. And I said last night that I think this team is really scary. If they can play like this all the time and get healthy, that they could be a Super Bowl team. I stand by that. I didn't feel that they sucked a week ago, and I don't feel that they're great now. But what I do feel is that the stakes are incredibly high for this team. Higher than they've ever been for Kyle. It's not any year for Kyle Shanahan. It's year 6. And it's year 6 when he's been on the cusp of being a champion for a while. And I think it's fair to say it's Super Bowl or bust. I really do think it's fair to say that. In year 6, maybe not year 3 or year 4, but let me just compare him to other coaches. Bill Walsh, in year 6, he won his 2nd Super Bowl. George Seifert, in year 6, he won his 2nd Super Bowl, okay? Steve Mariucci, in year 6, he got fired with a record of 57-39. By the Yorks, he got fired. That year, he went to the playoffs and won a game, but lost in the 2nd round to the eventual Super Bowl champions. The Yorks were like, you know what, you're not good enough, got fired. Not many coaches make it to year 6, especially ones with losing records. And I think it's absolutely fair to say, Kyle, this team is great. The roster is really freaking good. You got to show that you're the guy who can bring it across the finish line. And I think that's where a lot of the noise is coming from and why it feels too much so soon.
Okay, if you phrase it that way, meaning this is a test of Kyle with this really great roster, especially on defense, I totally agree with you.
Okay.
There's no argument between us.
Okay.
What I was saying, and maybe you're smarter than I am. Maybe I wasn't saying it well. I take Super Bowl or bust, meaning this is a Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl team, and it would be
Right.
a bust if they don't make it. So
Right.
maybe
Like they should win it. No, I'm not saying I agree with you on that. I agree with you
yeah.
on that.
So
I
we
do.
were
Yeah.
talking a little like cross
Yes.
purposes.
Yeah, absolutely were. And that happens a lot on Twitter too. I feel like people always kind of set up straw man arguments. People said this and it's wrong. Who said that? So it's
Yeah,
good to actually have a face-to-face conversation. Like, what are you exactly saying? What am I exactly saying? I
yeah.
think you were saying certain fans are saying this team sucks because they lost last week, and now this team is the best because they won this week. That
And
is
they should
stupid.
win.
Not
Yeah, and they
stupid.
should win the Super Bowl.
That's insane. But I think the noise, because I don't root for this team, but the reason I'm so loud so early this year is because I'm saying it's year 6. It's year 6, and we gotta hold Kyle to the highest standard he's ever been held. I don't want to hear any excuses about injuries or quarterbacks or whatever. Look at what this team can do. Look at that defense. And this offense is scoring 16 points per game right now. That's not going to get it done. To your point, this is not a Super Bowl team with 16 points per game. Kyle's got to keep rising to the occasion.
By the way, Iggy, I agree with you on Kyle.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what the Yorks think of him, what they would do, but from my point of view as a veteran watching these things, this is his most important season. He's got to really deliver. He's got to get at least into the playoffs, and maybe that's not enough. So I think we're in agreement on that. I want to say yes.
It just reminds me of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Lynch was on that team. Tony Dungy was the coach of that team. He was really good. They went to the playoffs and went deep a lot, but he never won the big one. And after 6 years, they fired him. Year 6 is a big year for coaches who haven't won a Super Bowl.
And it should be for Kyle. He needs to deliver. He still has a losing record.
Because what the Bucs realized was they brought in another coach, John Gruden, who frankly wasn't great, but he won with that roster. And then he tore it apart because of his ego and wanted to build his own team, and he was ridiculous. But if Kyle can't win with this roster, I'm thinking there are other people who can. And that's why it's so serious for him. And that's why last night was very encouraging, because he did do a very good job.
Okay. I have a few things to say about last night. And again, it was a very important win. There was a lot of pressure on them. But what was the reality? Let's talk about how great the defense is. It's great. But the Rams offense sucks.
It does. That's a good point.
And I can tell you some ways it sucks. They can't run the ball.
There's that.
There's that.
So they're utterly one-dimensional. Let's just go through it. That's a good place to start. What's 2?
Okay. What's 2 is they don't have any deep threats. There's no speed on the outside.
Yep. And there's more. What can you keep going?
Their offensive line was a mess.
Yeah, that's quite a trifecta.
And the poor center was the number 3 center.
Yeah.
He didn't understand any of the blitzes that were coming or the games they were playing. With Bosa coming around, and he was the poor guy was not up to the job. So, look, I'm not taking away from the defense, but I would say it wasn't the highest degree of difficulty to control that offense.
It's fair to say they haven't been tested yet. The way they're going to be tested in the playoffs against quarterbacks such as Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, yada, yada. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they got Patrick Mahomes before the playoffs.
That's right.
They got Patrick Mahomes in a few weeks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, I mean, what I'm saying is, sure, it's a great defense, but they should have been great again. And look, let's not skip the quarterback. Iggy, there's something wrong with that quarterback. Now, he can't throw deep. Well, he has no one deep to throw to. I got that. But he doesn't look right to me.
No, he doesn't.
Stafford.
Absolutely not. No, Goff is having a better year than him. You pointed that out last week.
Goff is really having a good year. And what Jimmy Ward said, he didn't say Goff is better. What he said was, I don't know why they got rid of him. He took him to the Super Bowl. You know, is this guy going to be any better? Well, he did win the Super Bowl. But Jared Goff seems to be coming into his own. He'd be a better quarterback for the Rams now than Stafford.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, would you do that trade again if you knew that you're only going to get one good year from Stafford, but it's a Super Bowl? I mean, maybe they could win multiple Super Bowls in the future with Jared Goff, who's still, 26 years old? I mean, he's not that old.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's very interesting.
So what we're saying is that the Rams aren't that good. The Niners played the best they could play to have a close game that they blew open at the end.
Yeah, and what I want to say about the defense, and again, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're not going to look that good against Kansas City.
Right.
They might beat Kansas City, but it's not going to be like that. And Kansas City's going to score against it. It's not like that defense is going to shut down every team they play.
Right.
No defense can do that. And the other thing, of course, is the Niners offense. They scored 17 points, and you say they're averaging 16 points. Okay, they did what they needed to do last night, but there will be games where you need to score more than 17 points.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Especially in the playoffs.
And the way I look at it, they played a good offensive game and were aided by certain really big plays.
Oh,
the Deebo Samuel, what he did was he was like a tank, and people were afraid.
It looked like it was going to be a pick six. It looked like it was to me, it was Jimmy's worst throw of the game, and it was the best play of the night for the offense. It was kind of that, and that's why it's another reason not to go overboard. We're saying, is Jimmy Garoppolo way improved? I don't know. He does that once a game. It's just this time it worked out for a touchdown, except for not an interception.
And the other big play that came before was the Jeff Wilson touchdown run, which was phenomenal. It was a great run and a great call. And there was the pass to use check, and there were certain big plays.
Yeah,
and that's great. They get credit for them, but on average, the offense did not strike me as that good. And Jeff Wilson had a pretty good yards per run average, but you had to factor in the long run.
Can I point out something too? In the fourth quarter, the Niners got the ball. Ray McCloud had a 22-yard punt return to give the Niners the ball at their 45. Great field position. They stall out on 3rd and 11 at the Rams 30-yard line. On 3rd and 11 at the Rams 30, Jimmy hits Ayuk for 6. And rather than going for it on 4th and 5, they try to kick a field goal and miss it. And then the Rams have 8:48, down 8, and they're driving, and they get into Niners territory, and Talanoa Hufanga makes that great play. But that game was actually a lot closer than it feels right now.
What I felt, it's funny, Iggy, when they were driving down, and obviously they needed the 2-point conversion, I thought they're never going to do this. And I thought someone's going to – first of all, they'd never make the 2-point conversion because they suck. But beyond that, someone's going to pick off Stafford. And that's how I usually feel about Jimmy at the end. But this time I felt that about Stafford because he was so weak in the whole game. And you know what? Yeah. I defend Kyle for going for the field goal. I do.
Yeah.
Because, I think what he was thinking is we're controlling their offense.
Yeah.
They have a long way to go. I thought it was worth it.
Yeah, and especially when you know that the Rams – how many 7-yard passes can they throw to Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee? That's their whole offense. How scared are you of that? Yeah. That's all they do. And they kept talking all week. Have you seen that they're playing their wide receiver at fullback? Ben Skoranek. It's amazing. That sounds like a desperate offense that's out of ideas and talent. That's what they got? Are you kidding me? So, this really wasn't the same level of challenge that the Rams presented last year. And we don't really know if the Niners have an all-time great defense yet. We know that Talanoa Hufanga is an upgrade over his predecessor, and that's nice. But they're still going to be tested in ways they haven't been.
Right. Yet. We know that the Niners have a hell of a defense. We do.
Yes.
Whether it's an all-time great defense, we'll find out. I don't want to start, pounding my chest and say they are. We'll find out. The 49ers have had pretty good defenses in the past.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. And the offense, Iggy, it's not where it needs to be. So again, if I were a fan, I'd be saying Super Bowl or bust in the way I meant it, not the way Iggy meant it. I'm not a fan, and I'm keeping down the noise and saying 4 games, very interesting, mediocre record, mediocre division. They won a game after they lost a terrible game. I'm interested in the next game. Now, I think they'll win the next game, but I'm interested.
And they still have major question marks. They do. Most of them on offense. But some on defense too. We'll have to see when they get tested.
They do have injuries. They have injuries on offense too. They have question marks for me in 2 places. One, the quarterback, who we'll talk about later, and also the running game.